Now, let's look at the cross-price elasticity of demand. Cross-price elasticity of demand is important because it gives a scientific mathematical definition about how two goods can relate to one another. As you may remember, there are two types of related goods talked about in most macro and microeconomic courses: substitutes and complements. So instead of relying on common knowledge to determine whether two goods are substitutes or complements, we can calculate the cross-price elasticity of demand and draw our conclusions from there whether the goods are complements or substitutes. Cross-price elasticity of demand measures the percentage change in the quantity demanded for one good divided by the percentage change in price of another good. The general formula is the percentage change in the quantity demanded of one good, called X, divided by the percentage in the price of another good, called Y. A more useful formula is QX2 minus QX1 divided by QX1 divided by the quantity of PY2 minus PY1 divided by PY1. Let's take a minute to define what each of the variables in the formula represent. QX1 represents the starting quantity of good X. QX2 represents the ending quantity of good X. PY1 represents the starting price of the second good, Y. PY2 represents the ending price of the second good, Y. The key to notice about this formula is that there are two goods in the problem to be referred to generically as X and Y. Once the price elasticity of demand has been calculated, the number needs to be interpreted. To interpret the cross-price elasticity of demand, use the following. If the cross-price elasticity of demand is less than 0, that is, it is negative, then the two goods are complements of one another. If the cross-price elasticity of demand is 0, then the two goods are neither substitutes or complements of each other. If the cross-price elasticity of demand is greater than 0 or positive, then the two goods are substitutes of one another. The procedure for calculating the cross-price elasticity of demand is: 1. Write down the formula for calculating the cross-price elasticity of demand. 2. Write P1 next to the first price of good Y listed in the problem. 3. Write Q1 next to the first quantity of good X listed in the problem. 4. Write P2 next to second price of good Y listed in the problem, and Q2 next to the second quantity of good X listed in the problem. 5. Substitute in the values for P1 and Q1 into the formula, and substitute the values for P2 and Q2 into the formula. 6. Subtract Q1 from Q2. 7. Subtract P2 from P1. Divide the difference of Q1 and Q2 by Q1. Divide the difference of P1 and P2 by P1. 10. Divide the result of step 8 by the result of step 9 and interpret the result. Let's look at a problem to determine whether two goods are complements or not. Mary works for an automobile company which is studying the relationship between the price of gasoline and SUV sales. According to the data collected by the market research firm, the price of gasoline is $2.50 per gallon. The car company sells 100 SUVs per month. When the price of gasoline is $4 per gallon, the car sells 40 SUVs per month. What is the relationship between the price of gasoline per gallon and the number of sales of SUVs per month. The first step is to write down the formula. Next, locate the price for good Y. In this example, good Y is going to be the price of gasoline per gallon. Starting price in the problem is $2.50. This price should be labeled PY1. The initial value of SUVs is found in the same sentence as the initial price of the gasoline. In this example, good X is the SUVs. The number of SUVs associated with the price of $2.50 per gallon is 100 SUVs. Since 100 SUVs is associated with $2.50 per gallon of gas, we should label this QX1. Next, we need to locate the second price for good Y. The next sentence tells us that the price of gasoline increased to $4 per gallon, so this should be labeled PY2. Since the number of SUVs associated with $4 a gallon is 40 SUVs per month, it should be labeled QX2. The next step is to locate PY1 in the formula and in the problem. Once you have found PY1, substitute in the values associated with PY1. In this example, PY1 is associated with $2.50. Next, find QX1 in the problem and in the formula. Since 100 SUVs are associated with QX1, 100 SUVs will be substituted into the formula. Once QX1 has been substituted in the formula, you will need to locate PY2 in the problem and in the formula. Substitute $4 into the formula for PY2. Once PY2 has been substituted into the formula, find QX2 in the problem and in the formula. Substitute 40 SUVs into the formula for QX2. Next, subtract 100 SUVs from 40 SUVs, and this gives us a minus 60 SUVs. Next, subtract $2.50 from $4, and this gives us $1.50. Next, divide minus 60 SUVs by 100, and this gives us minus 6/10. Next, divide $1.50 by $2.50, and this gives us 0.6 or 6/10. Next, divide a minus 6/10 by 6/10, which gives a -1. So the cross price elasticity of demand is -1 between our SUVs and gasoline. Next, we need to interpret the meaning of the cross price elasticity of demand. To interpret the result of our calculation, let's review the three criteria used to interpret our calculation. If the cross price elasticity of demand is less than 0 or it is negative, then the two goods are complements of each other. If the cross-price elasticity of demand is 0, then the two goods are neither substitutes nor complements of each other. Finally, if the cross-price elasticity of demand is greater than or positive, then the two goods are substitutes of each other. We start by comparing -1 with the first criteria, which is the cross-price elasticity of demand is negative. This is, yes, that is. So, we can conclude that SUVs and gasolines are complements of each other.